It was supposed to be a typical family gathering. Everyone was supposed to be relaxed, laughing, and catching up. But the moment I walked into the kitchen, I saw my sister, Emma, standing there with my mom, her face red with anger. I didn't know what had happened, but the tension was so thick I could feel it in my bones. Something was wrong. "Linda," Emma snapped when she saw me. "I can't believe you did this." I raised an eyebrow, confusion clouding my mind. "What are you talking about?" Before I could get a word in, Emma pointed to the counter. There, on the kitchen island, was an empty jewelry box. The one my mom had kept for years, passed down from her grandmother. The one that held her most treasured necklace. The necklace I had admired countless times over the years. "It's gone," Emma said, her voice tight with accusation. "And you were the last one to touch it. You must have stolen it." My stomach dropped. I could feel the blood rushing to my face, the anger building up inside me. Steal? I had never stolen a thing in my life, especially not from our mom. Yet, there she was. Emma, pointing the finger at me, without hesitation, without a shred of proof. "Are you serious?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, though I could feel the heat rising. "Why would I steal from Mom? You know I don't touch her things. I haven't even been in here except to grab a drink." But Emma wasn't listening. She was too wrapped up in her own rage to hear reason. "You've always been jealous of me," she spat. "Of the things I have, of the attention I get. You probably took it because you thought you could get away with it." I stood there in disbelief. Was she really accusing me of something so heinous? Something that could tear our family apart? Jealous? Of her? I had never wanted anything from Emma. I had always been the quiet one, the one who stayed in the background letting her shine. But this was too much. I could feel my chest tightening, but I took a deep breath, trying to control my emotions. "I didn't take anything," I said, my voice lower now, tinged with frustration. "This is insane. You're accusing me without any proof." Mom, who had been standing silently by the doorway, finally spoke, her voice shaky. "Emma's right, Linda. You've always been a little careless. Maybe you didn't mean to take it, but—" "No," I snapped, cutting her off. "This is not me. I didn't take it, and I'm not going to sit here and let you tear my name apart without any proof." Emma crossed her arms, smirking. "Then prove it. If you didn't take it, why don't you show us where it is?" Her words hit me like a punch. I couldn't believe this was happening. But something inside me told me that this wouldn't be the end of it. I wasn't going to let Emma get away with accusing me of something I didn't do. I wouldn't let her ruin my reputation or my relationship with our family. I wasn't going to stand there, silently absorbing her lies. I knew I had to do something. The truth was on my side, and I wasn't going to let anyone, especially not Emma, destroy it. I could feel the eyes of my family on me, waiting for me to break. But I wasn't about to let Emma win. I refused to let her paint me as the villain, especially when I knew the truth. My heart pounded, not out of fear, but out of anger. How could she do this to me? Accuse me of something I didn't do, in front of everyone. "I'm done standing here while you make false accusations," I said, my voice steady now, more controlled. "If you think I stole that necklace, you're going to have to prove it. Because I don't steal, Emma. And I sure as hell don't steal from Mom." Emma's eyes narrowed as she crossed her arms tighter over her chest. "I don't need to prove anything. The necklace was here, and now it's gone. You were the last one who touched it. What's that if not proof?" But I wasn't backing down. I took a step forward, my eyes locked on Emma's. "You've got nothing, Emma. Absolutely nothing. Just because I was in the room doesn't mean I took it. If you want to accuse me, then show me something, anything that links me to it. Otherwise, this is just your jealousy talking." The silence in the room was deafening. I could see the doubt starting to flicker across my mom's face. She was struggling to make sense of what Emma was saying, but deep down, I could tell she knew I wasn't capable of stealing from her. "I'll prove it," I said, my voice rising with determination. "I'm going to show you exactly what happened. I've got proof you won't be able to deny." Emma scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Oh, really? And what's that supposed to be?" I turned toward the hallway, my mind racing. There was something I knew could clear my name. Something that would not only expose Emma's lies, but show her for what she really was. The proof was in the security footage. For months, my mom had insisted on installing cameras around the house after a string of small items had gone missing over the years. At first, it seemed like overkill. But now? Now, it was the one thing that could prove Emma's accusation was nothing but a lie. I marched to the living room, grabbed the remote for the security system, and pressed play. The video footage from the last few hours appeared on the screen. I fast-forwarded through the footage, my finger hovering over the button as I searched for the moment I needed. Then I found it. I froze the footage on the screen. It showed Emma, right after the family dinner, when I was supposedly alone in the room with the jewelry box, walking into the kitchen and grabbing the box off the counter. She opened it, paused for a moment, then closed it again and put it back. I turned around, holding up the remote, my hands shaking with a mix of rage and disbelief. "There it is," I said, my voice full of finality. "You took it, Emma. You took it. And you tried to frame me." Her face went pale as she stammered, her lips parting as if she were searching for words that would save her. But there were none. You can't be serious," Emma whispered, her voice trembling now. That's not what it looks like." "I think the footage speaks for itself," I said, cutting her off. "You accused me of something I didn't do, and now everyone can see the truth." The room was dead silent. The camera had exposed her lies, and the shame was written all over Emma's face. She didn't have an excuse. She didn't have a defense. "Why, Emma?" My voice was quieter now, softer. "Why did you do this?" She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. She looked defeated, broken in a way I hadn't seen before. It wasn't the triumphant look I had expected. It was fear. And in that moment, I realized just how deep her jealousy and bitterness ran. I had never wanted anything more than to have a healthy relationship with my sister. But this was something else. She had crossed a line I couldn't ignore. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me again. The truth was out, and I wasn't backing down. The silence in the room was deafening, as everyone processed what had just been revealed. My mom was standing off to the side, her hand covering her mouth in shock. She looked between me and Emma, clearly torn between disbelief and the realization of what her daughter had done. I could see the hurt in her eyes, and I felt a pang of guilt for having to put her in this position. But this wasn't about protecting Emma anymore. This was about standing up for myself and making sure the truth was heard. Emma was still standing there, frozen. Her eyes darted back and forth as if looking for a way out, a way to explain what was on the video. But there was no explanation, no excuse for what she had done. The proof was right in front of her, and there was nothing she could say to get herself out of it. Finally, she spoke, her voice trembling, barely above a whisper. "Linda, you don't understand. I didn't mean for it to go this far." I couldn't believe my ears. She didn't mean for it to go this far? She had accused me of theft in front of our whole family, tried to ruin my reputation, and now she was trying to downplay it? "Stop," I said, cutting her off. My voice was steady, but there was an edge to it. "You don't get to play the victim, Emma. You've been lying, trying to turn everyone against me, and now you want to pretend like it was a mistake? You wanted to destroy me." She looked at me, her eyes wide, guilt written all over her face. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She was choking on the weight of her lies. "You've been jealous of me for years, haven't you?" I said, stepping toward her, my voice growing stronger. Every time I succeeded, every time I had something good happen in my life, you felt like you were being left behind. So you tried to tear me down, make me the bad one, make me the thief. The truth was coming out now, and I wasn't holding back. I had kept my emotions bottled up for so long, always trying to avoid conflict, always trying to make peace. But not anymore. Not after what she did. You've always tried to overshadow me, I continued. And this time you went too far. You're not just hurting me, Emma. You're hurting Mom, too. Do you think she's going to forgive you for this? My mom stood there, her arms folded tightly, eyes filled with disappointment. She hadn't said a word yet, but I could see the weight of the situation settling on her. Emma had done more than just accuse me of something I didn't do. She had ripped the fabric of our family apart with her lies. Emma, I said, my voice softer now, though still firm. Why did you do it? Why did you feel the need to ruin everything? She finally broke down. The tough exterior she had been holding on to cracked, and for the first time, I saw her for what she truly was, scared and desperate. Tears filled her eyes, and she wiped at them furiously, but they kept coming. I didn't want to lose Mom's approval, she whispered, her voice cracking. I've always felt like you were the favorite. You've always gotten everything you wanted, and I was never enough. I thought if I could get rid of you, I could finally be the one she paid attention to. But it all went wrong. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I took a deep breath. I didn't want to feel sorry for her. Not after everything she had put me through. But I couldn't help it. She was my sister, and in that moment, I realized how much she had been struggling with her own insecurities. It didn't excuse what she had done, but it gave me some understanding. Emma, I said, my voice steady but not unkind. This isn't how you fix things. You don't tear others down to make yourself feel better. You don't ruin people's lives because you feel left behind. She nodded, her face red from the tears. I know, she said softly. I've messed up. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I let out a slow breath. I didn't know what to say next. Part of me wanted to walk away, cut ties with her completely. But another part of me, one that still cared for her, no matter how deeply she'd hurt me, knew that we couldn't just leave things like this. We'll talk about this, I said, my voice quieter now. But not today. Not while you're still trying to play the victim. You need to own up to what you've done, Emma. You need to fix the damage you've caused. I turned away, my heart heavy. I had won the battle, exposed her lies, but I wasn't sure if this was the end of it. I wasn't sure if we could ever go back to being the family we once were. But I knew one thing for certain. I would never let anyone, especially not Emma, drag me down again. The days after I exposed Emma's lies were tense, to say the least. I tried to keep a level head, but I could feel the undercurrent of unease pulsing through the house. Emma had withdrawn, refusing to speak to me directly, but I knew she was still stewing in guilt and shame. The silence between us was deafening, and I could feel the weight of what had happened sitting like a stone in the pit of my stomach. I didn't want to let Emma's betrayal define me, but it was hard to ignore the ripple effect it had on the rest of our family. Every time I saw my mom, there was a flicker of sadness in her eyes. She was struggling with the idea of accepting that one of her daughters had tried to tear the other apart, and no matter how much I reassured her, I could see that the wound wasn't healing quickly. One evening, I was sitting in the living room, trying to distract myself with a book, when my mom came in. She sat down across from me, her expression serious but not angry. I need to talk to you, Linda, she said, her voice soft. I closed the book, setting it down, and looked at her, bracing myself for what was coming. I knew this conversation had been coming. She was torn between the daughter she had always protected and the daughter who had been hurt. About Emma, she began. I don't know how to feel right now. I know she was wrong, but... She trailed off, her eyes filled with confusion and hurt. She's my daughter. And I can't just turn my back on her, even though she's hurt you. I've always been the one to keep things together, to make sure no one is left out. But now, I don't know what to do." My mom's voice cracked slightly, and I saw the weight of her guilt settling on her shoulders. I knew she didn't want to take sides, but it was hard not to when Emma had so clearly overstepped. "Mom, I don't want to make this harder on you," I said gently. "But you need to understand that what Emma did wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't just a petty argument. She tried to ruin my reputation. She tried to turn the family against me, and she did it without thinking about the consequences." My mom nodded slowly, her hands wringing together in her lap. "I know," she said, her voice shaky. "I know, Linda. I've been blind to how much she's struggled with jealousy and insecurity. But she's my daughter, and I still love her. I just don't know how to fix this." I felt my heart soften a little at her words. I knew she loved Emma. She always had. But that didn't mean I had to accept what had happened. It didn't mean that Emma's actions should be forgiven just because of her insecurities. "I understand that, Mom. I really do. I know you love her. But she needs to take responsibility for what she did. And I need to know that she's not going to do this again." "I'll talk to her," my mom said, her voice firm now. "I'll make sure she understands what she did, how much damage she's caused. I can't promise that things will be easy, but I want you both to heal from this. I want to move past this as a family." I nodded, appreciating her effort. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Emma was still in denial. She had yet to fully own up to her actions, and until she did, I wasn't sure how we could move forward. Later that night, I received another message from Emma. It was short, almost curt. "I'm sorry for what I did. I never meant to hurt you. I was just scared." I stared at the screen, my emotions swirling. Scared? What did she mean by that? Scared of what? Scared of losing her place in the family? Scared of me taking the spotlight? It didn't make sense. It didn't justify what she had done. I put my phone down, letting out a breath. Maybe this was a start, but I wasn't going to let Emma off the hook just because she was sorry. Saying sorry didn't erase the pain she'd caused, and I needed her to prove to me that she was truly sorry. I wasn't ready to forgive her. Not yet. The days after Emma's message were filled with a tense kind of quiet. I was waiting for some kind of real acknowledgement, an apology that went beyond just words on a screen. But nothing came. Emma kept to herself, her presence hanging like a shadow over the house, and I couldn't help but feel like nothing had really changed. She hadn't fully confronted what she had done. She hadn't fully faced the consequences of her actions. Then, a few days later, I got a call from my mom. "Linda, we need to talk about Emma," she said. Her voice was calm, but I could sense the worry underneath. I had known this conversation was coming. Emma had been avoiding both of us, hiding from the reality of the situation. It was clear to me that my mom was trying to hold the family together, but she also knew there was a rift that couldn't be ignored. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. "I had a long talk with Emma," my mom continued, "and I think she's finally starting to understand how deep her actions cut. She's ashamed, Linda. She told me she feels like she's lost everything. Her relationship with you, the trust of the family. She doesn't know how to fix it, and she doesn't know how to ask for forgiveness." I sat back in my chair, feeling a mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to believe that Emma was finally facing the reality of what she'd done, but another part of me wondered if she was just looking for a way to absolve herself. "Has she apologized to you?" I asked quietly. There was a pause on the other end. "No," my mom admitted, "but I think she's struggling with pride. She doesn't want to admit how wrong she was. I know that's part of the issue." Pride. That made sense. Emma had always been the one who was praised for being the perfect daughter, the one who could do no wrong in my mom's eyes. Now, she was the one who had to live with the consequences of her actions. I understood her fear of admitting she was wrong, But I also knew that she couldn't heal without doing that. She needed to take responsibility. I don't want to drag this out, I said, my voice steady. I need her to come to me, Mom. I need her to be honest about what she did, not just apologize because she's been cornered. If she's truly sorry, she'll show it by changing, by making things right. But I won't accept half-hearted apologies. Not after what she did to me. My mom sighed, and I could almost feel the weight of her exhaustion. I understand, Linda. I'll talk to her again. But I hope you know that Emma is going through something too. She's always felt like she had to compete with you, and I think this jealousy, this need for validation, pushed her to do something she regrets deeply. She never intended for it to get this far. I get it, I said, my voice softening. But that doesn't change the fact that she hurt me. I can't just ignore that. We both sat in silence for a few moments, and I could feel the tension lifting, just a little. I'll talk to Emma, my mom said finally, and I'll ask her to come to you. I hope she'll finally be ready to take responsibility. I nodded, feeling both relieved and anxious. Emma still had a lot of work to do to make things right. But maybe, just maybe, this was the first step. I wasn't going to make it easy for her, but I couldn't let this tear the family apart either. The next day, Emma came to me. She stood at my door, her eyes red, her shoulders slumped as though the weight of the world was resting on them. She looked vulnerable. Not the confident, self-assured person I was used to seeing, but someone who had hit rock bottom. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer right away. I just stood there, staring at her, unsure of what to say. After everything she had done, I wasn't sure if I could forgive her. But I knew that if we were ever going to move past this, we had to start somewhere. Finally, I nodded and stepped aside. "Come in." As Emma walked into the room, I could feel the tension in the air. Every step she took seemed hesitant, as if she wasn't sure whether to be angry, ashamed, or just plain sorry. The weight of the silence between us felt almost suffocating. I sat down on the couch, not sure how to start. After everything that had happened, it felt like there was a vast gulf between us that couldn't easily be crossed. But she needed to take that first step, not me. Emma finally sat down, her hands twisted in her lap, her gaze fixed on the floor. I don't know where to begin," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't even know how I thought accusing you of stealing would fix anything. It was stupid, and I'm so sorry, Linda." The apology didn't hit me the way I expected it to. I was waiting for more. Something deeper. Something that showed she understood the damage she had caused. But her words felt hollow, as if she was just saying what she thought I wanted to hear. "Sorry doesn't cut it," I said, my voice firm, though the anger I had been holding in for days was slowly giving way to frustration. "You can't just say you're sorry and expect everything to be okay. You accused me of stealing, Emma. You tried to destroy my reputation. Do you understand that?" She nodded slowly, tears welling up in her eyes. I know. I didn't think about how much it would hurt you. I was so angry, and I just wanted to hurt you the way I felt hurt." I took a deep breath, trying to control my emotions. Her confession was a step forward, but I wasn't ready to forgive her just yet. "Why, Emma? Why did you do it? Why accuse me of something I didn't do?" Her face crumpled, and for the first time, I saw the depth of her guilt. I thought if I could make you look bad, maybe I'd feel better about myself. I've always felt like I was living in your shadow, you know? Like you had everything. Mom's approval, a perfect life, and I was always trying to catch up. I was jealous, Linda. So jealous that it blinded me to everything else. I didn't know what to say. The truth was coming out, but it didn't make me feel any better. Emma had been harboring this resentment for years, and instead of confronting me about it like an adult, she had lashed out in the worst way possible. She tried to ruin everything just because she couldn't handle the idea of not being in the spotlight. You know, you're not the only one who struggled, I said, my voice quieter now. I've never had everything figured out. I've never been perfect, Emma. But I didn't try to tear you down to make myself feel better. I never wanted to hurt you. All I ever wanted was for us to be close, for us to support each other. Emma was crying now, her shoulders shaking with each sob. I know. I didn't know how to deal with my feelings. I've always felt like I had to compete with you, like I wasn't enough on my own. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I took another deep breath. I knew she was sorry, but it still didn't erase the hurt she had caused. It didn't erase the betrayal. I wasn't sure if I could just forgive her and move on like nothing happened. You need to prove to me that you're sorry, Emma, I said, my voice steady but resolute. Apologies are one thing, but actions speak louder than words. You can't expect me to forget what you've done just because you're crying and telling me you're sorry. You need to show me that you've learned from this, that you understand the pain you've caused. Emma wiped her eyes, nodding desperately. I will. I'll do whatever it takes. I swear, Linda, I'll make this right. I don't want to lose you. I wasn't ready to tell her everything was going to be okay. I wasn't sure if things would ever be the same again. But I could see that she was finally starting to understand. It wasn't going to be an easy road, but if she was truly willing to put in the work, maybe we could start to rebuild. I need time, I said, my voice softening. I need time to trust you again, but I'm not closing the door on you. Just don't make this about you being better than me. You've hurt me enough already. Now, you have to prove you can be better. Emma nodded, her voice trembling as she whispered, I will. I swear I will. I didn't know what the future held for us, but in that moment, I realized that the journey toward healing had begun. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't quick, but it was a start. The next few days were tense. Emma tried to reach out to me multiple times, sending me texts and calling, but I couldn't bring myself to respond right away. I needed space. I wasn't ready to just let her back into my life after everything that had happened. Her apology, though genuine, didn't erase the damage she'd caused. The betrayal was still fresh, and I wasn't going to let my guard down just because she had shed some tears. Instead of answering her calls, I focused on myself. I needed to clear my head, figure out what I wanted. My mom was still distant, unsure of where to place herself in all of this. I could see her heart break in the way she looked at me and Emma, the guilt in her eyes. She wanted everything to go back to how it was before, but I knew that wasn't possible. Something had shifted. It couldn't just be swept under the rug. I spent my evenings alone, reflecting on what had happened. I'd been through so much over the years, but this had been the hardest thing. Having your own sister accuse you of something so cruel, so baseless, it felt like a betrayal I couldn't easily forgive. And yet, a part of me still wanted to. I wanted the family I used to have, where things were simple, where Emma and I weren't at odds. But I knew I couldn't ignore what had been done. One night, about a week after our conversation, Emma showed up at my door unannounced. I hadn't expected it, and part of me wasn't sure I was ready to face her. But there she was, standing in the doorway, looking uncertain, vulnerable, and holding a bag in her hand. "Can we talk?" she asked softly, her eyes avoiding mine. I took a deep breath. "We've already talked, Emma. You apologized. What more do you want from me?" Her eyes flickered up to meet mine, and I could see the hurt in them. "I want to make things right. I want to show you that I'm not the person who did what you think I am. I want to prove to you that I'm not just some jealous, selfish person who ruined everything." I didn't respond at first, still unsure if I could trust her. But then I noticed the bag she was holding. It was small, like the one Mom used to keep her jewelry in. The one that held the necklace Emma had accused me of stealing. "Emma, what is this?" I asked, my voice a little sharper than I intended. She looked down at the bag, and I could see her hands tremble slightly. "I went through everything," she said. "I know it's not enough, but I wanted to do something to show you that I'm serious about fixing this." She opened the bag slowly, revealing what was inside. My mom's necklace, the one she had accused me of taking. It wasn't just any necklace, it was a family heirloom, and I had always admired it from a distance. Emma had hidden it, hoping to pin the blame on me, but now it was here, in front of me. "Why did you take it?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Emma's face crumpled. She looked as though she was struggling to say the words, but when she finally spoke, it was with a quiet honesty. "I didn't want to lose Mom. I was afraid that if I didn't do something, I'd never be able to keep up. I didn't want you to take everything from me. So I took the necklace, and I thought if I framed you, it would give me a chance." Her words hit me hard. All the jealousy, all the bitterness she had been holding inside. It was out now, laid bare for me to see. I wasn't just the sister she hated. I was the person she felt she could never measure up to. "Emma," I started, trying to process what she was saying. "You didn't have to do this. You never had to try to bring me down to feel better about yourself. If you had just told me how you felt, we could have worked through it. You could have come to me." "I know," she whispered. "I just didn't know how." There was a long silence between us. I didn't know what to say, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her walk away without understanding the weight of what she had done. The necklace, the lies, the manipulation, it wasn't something we could just sweep under the rug. "Look," I said, my voice firm but not cruel. "This doesn't fix anything, Emma. You hurt me. You lied to me. You tried to tear me apart in front of Mom, in front of everyone. That's not something I can just forgive in one conversation." Emma's face fell again. She knew I wasn't just going to let it go. She had to prove to me, not with words, but with her actions, that she had learned from this. She needed to show me that she could change. "I understand," she said, her voice shaky. "I'll do whatever it takes. I just need you to know how sorry I am." I took the necklace from her hands, feeling the weight of it in my palms. It wasn't just an heirloom anymore. It was a symbol of everything that had gone wrong. But it was also a chance to rebuild, a chance to finally break free from the lies and the jealousy. "I don't know what the future holds for us," I said quietly. "But if you want to fix this, Emma, you have to start by owning up to everything. You have to be honest with yourself first." The days that followed were a blur. Emma tried, in her own way, to prove she was serious about making things right. She started showing up to family gatherings, apologizing to everyone, and trying to rebuild the trust she had shattered. But there was still that gnawing feeling inside me. The feeling that things weren't going to be the same. Her actions had changed everything. One afternoon, a few days after our conversation, I received a message from Emma. It was short, simple, but I could tell she was making a real effort. "I'm sorry for everything, Linda. I want to make things right, but I understand if you're not ready to forgive me yet. I'm going to work on earning your trust no matter how long it takes." I stared at the message, feeling a strange mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to forgive her, wanted to move past everything and go back to the way things were. But another part of me, the part that had been betrayed, humiliated in front of our family, knew it wasn't going to be that easy. Trust, once broken, wasn't something that could just be repaired with a few words and gestures. Still, I didn't want to shut her out completely. We had been close once, before all of this. There had to be a way forward, but it had to come from both sides. That evening, I decided to reach out. I didn't know what I wanted to say, but I knew I couldn't keep holding on to the anger. Emma needed to understand the consequences of her actions, but I also needed to let go of the bitterness. Holding on to it wasn't doing anyone any good. I called her. It rang a few times before she answered. "Linda?" Emma's voice was hesitant, like she wasn't sure if I was still angry. Is everything okay? I got your message, I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. I'm not saying I'm ready to forgive you, but I think we should talk about everything. I don't want to keep pretending that things are fine when they're not. There was a pause on the other end, and I could hear her take a deep breath. I know I've hurt you, and I don't blame you for being angry with me. I'm sorry, Linda. I've been holding all of this inside for so long. I've been jealous of you for years. I don't know how to fix it, but I want to try. I need you to understand something, I said, my voice softer now. This isn't just about the necklace. It's not even just about the accusation. It's about how you've treated me all these years. How you've let your jealousy control everything between us. You can't just apologize and expect everything to go back to normal. You need to change. You need to show me that you understand what you did. I will, she said, her voice small, almost desperate. I will show you, I swear. I'll do whatever it takes. I took a deep breath, letting her words sink in. Was I being too harsh? Maybe, but I couldn't just let her off the hook. She needed to understand the depth of the damage she had done. I'm not sure if things can ever go back to the way they were, I said, my voice breaking a little. But if we're going to rebuild anything, it has to be with honesty, Emma. I need to see that you've changed, that you're not just saying things to make me feel better. I will, Linda. I promise. I've been seeing a therapist. I've been trying to work through my feelings. I didn't know how to deal with it all, and I let it control me. I nodded, though she couldn't see it. I'm glad you're getting help, but it's going to take time. You can't expect me to trust you again right away. I know, she said softly. I'm willing to take that time. I'll prove to you that I'm serious about changing. I let out a breath, feeling the tension begin to lift. Maybe this was the start of something. Maybe we could fix this, but it wouldn't be easy. It wasn't going to be a quick fix. It would take patience, understanding, and a willingness to be vulnerable on both sides. I'm not promising anything, I said finally, but I'm willing to try. We'll take it one step at a time. But you have to show me, Emma. You have to show me that you've learned from this. I will, she said, her voice more confident now. I won't let you down, Linda. And for the first time in a long while, I believed her. The weeks that followed felt like a slow rebuilding process. Emma and I started talking more, but there was an undeniable distance between us, one that wasn't easily bridged by words alone. Emma was trying, I could see that. She was working on herself, showing up at family gatherings with genuine attempts to make amends, but every time I saw her, that sting of betrayal would hit me again. The lies, the deceit, the way she tried to ruin my life. It didn't disappear overnight. I needed time, and so did she. But every time I looked at her, I couldn't help but wonder, would she ever truly change? She had hurt me deeply, and the pain wasn't something that could be erased just by her saying the right things. Emma had been playing the victim for so long, I didn't know if she could actually step out of that role and face the consequences of her actions. One night, after a particularly strained family dinner, I was sitting in my room when I heard a knock on the door. I opened it to find Emma standing there, her face more serious than I had seen it in weeks. She wasn't crying this time, but there was a look of determination in her eyes. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice low. I hesitated for a moment. I had thought that we were past the hardest part, but something about her expression made me feel like this was more than just another apology. "Sure," I said, stepping aside to let her in. I sat back down on my bed, the weight of what she was about to say hanging heavy in the air. "I've been thinking a lot about everything," Emma began, pacing slowly in front of me. "And I realize I've been asking for your forgiveness without really understanding what I was asking for. I've been asking you to forgive me for what I did, but I haven't truly confronted the reasons behind why I did it in the first place." I looked at her, waiting for her to continue. I wasn't sure where this conversation was going, but I felt like she was finally acknowledging the deeper issues at play. "I've spent most of my life competing with you, Linda," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "I know it's not fair, and I know I've never told you this, but I've always felt like I wasn't good enough, like I had to be perfect in order to be seen. I thought that if I could make you look bad, then maybe I could finally be enough, you know? Maybe I could be the one who mattered. But what I did, that wasn't just about jealousy. That was about me feeling so insecure and worthless that I couldn't see anything else." Her words were like a punch to the gut. I had always known Emma was insecure, but hearing her say it so plainly, hearing her admit it, was different. I had never fully understood what was going on inside her. I had never known how deeply her jealousy ran, how much it ate at her from the inside. But hearing her talk about it, I finally saw the root of everything. "I don't know if you can ever truly forgive me, but I'm asking you to try," Emma said, her voice trembling. "I know I have no right to ask that, but I need you to know how sorry I am. I've hurt you so much and I don't want to be that person anymore." I sat there in silence for a long moment, absorbing her words. I could see the change in her eyes, the regret, the shame, but more than that, I could see the desperation. She wasn't just asking for forgiveness because it was the right thing to do. She was asking because she knew she had destroyed something precious between us, and she didn't know if she could ever rebuild it. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet, Emma," I said softly, my heart heavy with the weight of what she had done. "But I can see that you're trying, and that means something. It's going to take time for me to trust you again. It's going to take time for me to heal from what you did, but I'm not closing the door on you." Emma's face softened, and for the first time in a long time, I saw a flicker of hope in her eyes. She didn't say anything more, but her presence felt different, less defensive, less guarded. It was as if she finally understood that her actions had consequences, that she couldn't just move on from this without facing the pain she had caused. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'll wait as long as it takes." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a step forward. A step toward healing, toward understanding, and maybe, just maybe, a step toward rebuilding what we had once lost. The weeks that followed felt like a slow, careful process. I spent more time reflecting on everything that had happened, on the way Emma had tried to tear me down, on the pain she'd caused, and on the way she was now attempting to make things right. It wasn't easy, and I wasn't sure if I could ever fully trust her again. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were both trying to heal. And that was enough. For now. Emma kept her word. She didn't rush me. She didn't push for forgiveness. She simply did the work. She showed up to family events, not with the same arrogance she had before, but with a humility that I hadn't expected. She wasn't perfect, but she was learning, and that meant something to me. One evening, after a family dinner, Emma came up to me quietly, her hands in her pockets, her eyes hesitant. She stood in front of me, not saying a word at first, and I could tell she was nervous. This was a moment of truth, whether she had really changed or whether this was all just another act. "Linda," she began, her voice soft, "I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about how I need to show you, not just say things. And I want to do that. I want to be someone you can trust again. I want to make things right." I looked at her, not knowing exactly what to say. My emotions were mixed. Part of me still hurt, still resented what she'd done, but another part of me saw the genuine effort she was putting in. It was hard to ignore that. I had to be honest with myself. She was trying. "You've got a long way to go," I said quietly. "But I see you trying." And that's something. It's not just about saying sorry. It's about showing that you've learned, that you understand what you did. And Emma, that's what I need to see. Not just today, but every day from now on. She nodded earnestly, looking almost relieved, as though my words were what she needed to hear. I will, she promised, and I'm sorry. Truly, for everything. I took a deep breath and then gave her a small, tentative smile. I'm not ready to just forget all of this, but I'm not closing the door on you either. You have to prove that you're different now. I need time. I understand, she said, a hint of sadness in her eyes. I'll do whatever it takes. As we stood there, the weight of everything seemed to lift a little. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was the first step toward healing. It wasn't going to happen overnight, and I wasn't naive enough to believe things would be perfect. But there was potential, and that was something I hadn't felt in a long time. A few weeks later, I found myself at a family gathering, sitting next to Emma. We didn't talk about the past. We didn't bring up the lies, the accusations, or the betrayal. But there was an unspoken understanding between us now. I could see that she was doing the work, that she was trying to build the bridge back between us, and I was willing to walk across it, one step at a time. As the night went on, I caught myself laughing at one of Emma's jokes. It was the first time in months that it didn't feel forced, that the tension between us had dissipated just a little. I wasn't ready to forget what had happened, but I was learning to accept that we could move forward, even if it wasn't exactly how I had envisioned it. Family wasn't always easy. Relationships weren't always perfect. But sometimes the hardest battles were the ones that taught you the most. I had fought for my reputation, for the truth, and for the love that I deserved. And I wasn't going to let anyone, especially not Emma, take that away from me again.